So with social media under fire from advertisers for hate speech regulation, is there worry the movement could get out of hand? Sure, there's an issue of finger pointing. Many of these companies deflecting from their own short coverings, including not hiring Americans to do these jobs. But, a study of corporate activism trends, it points to the silencing of conservative thought online to eliminate conservative culture, perhaps even the workforce within. Companies themselves, I think a lot of them are guilty of this. Joining me now to try to sort it all out, Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce. Tammy, it's been far too long, but I'm glad you joined on this topic. What do you make of this corporate activism we're seeing?
Well, you've said it, of course, perfectly, and it's not something that we have to be aware of. It's already happened. There is not one liberal out there who is worried that they're going to get banned or be labeled by Facebook or Twitter. It is only conservatives who worry about that, individuals who challenge the existing liberal narrative and the status quo. Now, companies, when they move in and push Facebook about hate speech, everyone in their mind, they know they're talking about the president of the United States tweets or his messages or their videos. And this is what we're talking about here. So it does send a direct message. And already, I'm certain conservatives are already self-censoring. That is the other point of this. And Sidney Powell, Michael Flynn's attorney, has been suspended on Twitter. I believe that has now just been lifted. But they couldn't explain, at least at this point, why they closed her account. I mean, this is a very well-known woman with extraordinary legal success on behalf of an internationally known man, an internationally known case, and they suspended her, and they can't explain to anybody really why that occurred. So companies who engage in this, it really is virtue signaling, but it only goes to one side of the political aisle. And that is the censoring of the conservative ideas.
I tweeted out yesterday, does anyone else see corporate activism where it's heading? And, talking about the conservatives having had to hide their beliefs at work. And this goes even beyond the Facebook stuff. But we're seeing more and more, where you had a college football coach who wore the wrong T-shirt, where you had a CEO of a company who had donated money to Republicans. I mean, I'm really kind of concerned that conservatives really are going to have to hide who they are when they go to work. They could be out on social media and they could actually start to lose their jobs.
Yes, and this is if the argument is that this is supposed to be about racial equality, and of course the national conversation about racial justice, is that if you have stunts or actions like this to punish individuals, it can also then be taking the place of genuine action internally, whether it's toppling a statue or changing a logo or punishing someone for wearing a T-shirt. It distracts people into stopping to think about, well, wait a minute, what are companies doing internally to make a difference? Like, what is Ford doing separate from saying we're not going to advertise on Facebook? But I would also caution that it won't stop at perceived conservatives. It's also about issues of faith. So people of color, Black Americans who are people of faith, are going to find that they're going to be part of this problem. If they are people of faith, it's expressed at work, or even, you're right, not at work. Are they also going to be targeted? I think the answer is going to be yes. We see police officers who are Black being targeted at the demonstrations. So while it's under the cover of social and racial justice, which we all certainly understand and agree with when it comes to equity and fairness, but we also are looking at African Americans who are being targeted by the same kind of totalitarianism at work and outside of work because of what they choose to do for a living.
And just moments ago, earlier today, Twitch was an Amazon video site, got rid of some Trump content, calling it hateful conduct, and Reddit, a subsector of that called the Donald, had 790,000 users. They took it off, and apparently they're trying to cleanse that site. But it's a scary thing. Tammy, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Charles.